wise man once said to me, "It doesn't matter where you come from. Rich, poor, white, black, Asian. The only thing that matters in life is how fucking good you are at Smash Brothers." That wise man was my granddad, Smash Guy Online. And ever since I heard those wise words of wisdom, I've been following his footprints to become the greatest Smash Bros. Player the world has ever seen. Well, fuck. If I can't be a Smash champion because some game company decides to neglect and abandon the game and its fan base, I better become a Smash champion in a different game. Smash Fortress, also known as Smash Bros, used to be an extremely popular community game mode within TF2, released way back when the world was going to end in 2012, alongside Gangnam Style and the Wii U. Smash Fortress was a bright light in an otherwise dark time, combining the comical cast of TF2 with the thrilling fighting formula of Smash Bros. It was a golden formula, made platinum by the original maps the game mode used, as well as referencing the original Smash Bros. You had Hyrule Castle, Skyworld, and everyone's favorite Fox-only fighting ground, Final Destination, along with some other unique workshop maps. Shooting people with your gun doesn't deal damage, in the traditional sense anyways. What it does do is increase their percentage. The higher your percentage, the more knockback you take, and falling off the map or hitting the skybox ceiling kills you and removes a life. Lose all three and you're dead for the rest of the round. Even if you manage to not get KO'd once though, you can still lose. Being a team-based game, Team Fortress of Smash requires your team to not die as well, and since rounds do have a timer, if your team decides to walk off the stage 9 times, you'll find yourself losing when time runs out. You can also win a round by killing all enemies at once, although this is pretty rare when more people join in. There's a bit more to the game as well though. Items will randomly spawn in over the map. Picking them up can grant you a beautiful bonus on the battlefield. Picking up the Boo will cause nearby enemies to be scared for several seconds, allowing you to get free hits in. Blooper blinds all enemy screens. This is what it looks like. It's the worst item, here and in Mario Kart. The Bee Mushroom from Mario Galaxy grants you flight by holding down the jump button, making you extremely vulnerable to knockback in the air, but it can be useful as recovery if you get knocked off stage. Just be careful of follow-up attacks. The Mega Mushroom and Mini Mushroom are inverse of each other. One makes you massive and immune to knockback, but easier to hit, while the other makes you minuscule, nearly impossible to hit, but greatly increasing your knockback. Not like that matters too much, you fucking mosquito. The Mega Mushroom also has a unique ability to actually kill someone early if they walk over an enemy. Bullet Bill is a really interesting item choice as it allows you to summon up to 5 homing rockets. Great for extending hits or securing a kill, but what makes it even better is that it also gives your projectiles the homing property for their duration too. The Power Star is pretty simple. It makes you invincible. You don't take knockback nor any damage, however it pales in comparison to the Bomb-Omb, which is without a doubt the strongest item in the game. Be careful picking one up though, using it spawns a decoy Bomb-Omb that, when touched, blows up the surrounding area, guaranteeing a kill on anyone caught within the radius. You can even pick up the power-up and just drop it directly on an enemy for an instant kill. Of course, be careful picking up fake ones and your teammates, as even they can still pick up friendly bombs and die. The last item is the Lucky Block, which just randomly gives you any of the following effects. There are a few miscellaneous and minor points about the game too, such as the way ammo works in it. Most weapons have either reduced ammo capacity with technical infinite ammo, being restored after a period of time when you stop firing, to prevent stuff like minigun or flamethrower spam, or greatly extended clips for all weapon choices. It is possible to run out of ammo with certain weapons in the game though, so be careful of spamming away. Before we talk about Smash Fortress though, let's talk about today's terrific TF2 sponsor, MannCo Store. Listen, we all know hats are the greatest decider of skill in TF2. It doesn't matter if you have 9,000 hours in the game, watched a bunch of tier list videos, understand the ins and outs of the meta, or even won an international tournament. You don't have a hat? You ain't all that. To solve that sorry sculpt, you could search the Steam market for something, but the prices they show you, Ugh. I may have thousands of unaccounted dollars hidden away from the banks and IRS, but I'm not made of money. Thankfully, MannCo's store has me and my money fraud ways counted for, offering discounts from unusual skis to the helmet without a home. If you wanted it for some reason, oddball hat choice. Combine the discounts with their extremely impressive amounts of ways to pay for your product. I mean, you got the classics like Visa and PayPal, the kooky cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ether, and the 100% definitely real ways to pay like Alphamart with their bee mascot called Alibi. What am I looking at? But if a literal penny is too much for your wallet to manage, don't worry about your broke bottom because they also have free giveaways. And they aren't just giving away stuff like STDs and syphilis, but actually cool stuff like a Burning Flames team captain. So what are you waiting for? My blessing? You have it. Go and check out MannCo's store with the links in the description below. What makes a class good in Smash Fortress? 3 things I find. Number 1, damage. How quickly you can get an opponent to high percentages. 2, knockback. How far and easily you can actually knock them around. And 3, recovery. How easy is it to come back from high damages and being knocked around yourself? These 3 core concepts can clear up any confusion you could have about a class. So let's check how good Engineer is. Engineer is exceptionally egregious. Amazing at being awful. The few things Engineer can do well in this game mode are severely outclassed by other classes in the game like Heavy and Sniper. Engineer has a decent long-range option in his mini-sentries and Wrangler, allowing you to focus fire on an enemy and carry them off stage with successive hits, and that's it. And even with that, there are still an exceptional amount of drawbacks to the mini-sentry.
For starters, it takes forever to build.
As Engineer is entirely reliant on his sentry, the fact it takes 12 years to build in the heat of a chaotic battleground means you're sitting duck until you get that sentry up, assuming it doesn't get blown to smithereens the second you place it down. This also means that you're forced to play around your mini-sentry in a game where you can go from one side of the map to the other in a second without your consent, leaving Engineer defenseless until he can trek his way back to the turret. You could destroy it and just rebuild it, but it comes at another downside. Sentries are not built with full ammo, meaning if you build one, it gets destroyed and you need to build another, that sentry will be screwed over until your metal slowly regenerates back. You could build a dispenser, which does negate the long-term issue of Engineer's metal management, but it too takes 10 years to build. Can't fight back, and obviously costs half of your metal immediately. Engineer's other weapons are also extremely lacking in firepower and knockback. The shotguns are all extremely mediocre as a primary means of dealing damage, having small clips, slow firing rates, and minuscule amounts of knockback even at higher percentages. The Thompson is a rather unique choice though. Sure, its damage output goes from mediocre to sweet mother of Mary please just fucking hit 'em, but when it does land, the knockback on it is acceptable. There's also the added benefit of reducing cloak and Uber, which seems gimmicky, but you'll see the godsend power of a German later on. The Frontier Justice appears to be a decent long to medium range weapon, doing decent knockback and even healing buildings from afar when someone snipes them from across the open sky that is Smash maps, until you realize it marks you for death while carrying a building, something you'll be doing often to ensure your sentry has a line of sight. As you don't technically deal damage in this game mode, the Widowmaker makes for an awful substitute for the stock shotgun. You shoot 4 times and bammo, no more ammo. The pistol is an extremely solid secondary choice thanks to its fast firing rate, allowing you to quickly rack up high percentages on enemies and knock them off the stage, making it an extremely solid secondary selection. For Scout, don't even think about getting rid of the Wrangler. You want to cheat on your soulmate for what? The thrill of it? You and the pistol are just going to be wanting a more fulfilling relationship anyways. Ignore it and embrace sentry supremacy. Even if the sentry sucks as much as fucking Dippin' Dots. These have been the self-proclaimed ice cream of the future for 35 years. We're in the future now, dumbass. You can't keep calling yourself that. This is a restricted no-go item. Move along quietly and forget you ever saw it. Melee weapons in Smash Fortress just exist. Unless there's some random quirk they have, they're all really the same. They're all strong weapons that deal decent knockback, perfect for finishing off a chain of hits in close range, but horrendous at chaining them together. As most of Engineer's wrenches are tied directly to his buildings, most of them do the exact same thing as one another. I mean, yeah, sure, the Jag does shoot out slightly faster, so you can hit someone faster too, but that's really it for a melee mix-up. For those thinking the Southern Hospitality would be really good because of its bleed effect, get those stupid, silly assumptions out of that skull. Damage over time effects do not exist in this game mode, so stuff like bleed from the Boston Basher or Trailman Shiv, and afterburn from flamethrowers or the Cowminger's charge shot do nothing. Engineer, much like Dipping Dots, have absolutely zero reason to exist in the world as is. Engineer requires way too much setup to actually become a threat, and even then the level of that damage he can do is on the same scale as other classes who can just jump straight into it. Without the sentry, the best he can do is the odd shotgun slug to the skull, which hurts less than blowing a kiss to the enemy. His low base mobility and low damage output makes him especially vulnerable to getting rushed down and knocked around, and with zero ways to recover from a free trip to the stratosphere, Engineer is easily the worst class to play in Smash Fortress. Demo is a devastating disappointment. He can dish out decent damage, but his domain of aerial denial just doesn't work in a game like this. I was expecting Demo to be a top 3 threat, just to realize how trash he truly is. On paper, Demo's demolitions seem to be fantastic. They hit for a lot of damage and already deal decent knockback. Combine that with sticky bombs, which allow you to clear a multitude of enemies, and it seems like the perfect class catered for a chaotic game. But that's just on paper. In reality, Demo struggles to actually hit and knock people around after hitting them first, meaning landing a KO with him is a real challenge. Grenades and sticky bombs are extremely easy to dodge when every hit pushes you outside of Demo's effective range. The only way Demo can effectively guarantee kills is by hitting someone at such a ludicrously high percentage that breathing on them would kill them anyways. Demo needs to get the first hit in more than any other class, as he not only struggles in far ranges, but close ranges too due to stickies arming and self-inflicted knockback with grenades. Getting the first hit in, however, means you have the offensive momentum to potentially allow you to land another sticky bomb or grenade when the enemy lands. Demo does have access to decent stage recovery in the form of his shields, allowing you to charge back onto the stage if you aren't launched off from too far away. They also partially mitigate Demo's range issues, allowing him to catch up to enemies he sends skyward. Keyword is mitigate. Being launched off several times in quick succession will still screw you over faster than a car dealership. Demo can also sticky jump around to gain increased mobility against his enemies at the cost of taking percentage damage himself. This is more useful for getting into fights than in them, however, as the setup time for placing and detonating those stickies isn't as instant as just firing a rocket at your feet. Especially when the enemy can just look in your general direction and push you 30 feet away from your bombs. Demo Knight is also a death sentence in this game. You're just gonna walk into the guy holding a gun that pushes you away with a sword? I haven't seen a strategy as stupid as that since Demo Knight's Twitter teleporter. Demo's weapons are just as lacking as he is. The Iron Bomber being slightly better than stock due to the sheer simplicity of exploding right where you aim it rather than bouncing around with stock. The base jumper may seem like an extremely good idea for getting back to the stage, just keep in mind that you can only deploy it once, and that you look like a Chinese spy balloon floating in the sky like that. Expect to get shot. Still a semi-solid weapon choice though. The loose cannon is a badass beast boasting high damage and high knockback right from the get-go, while also making it a lot easier to hit close-up enemies. It's a game mode about knockback, and you have the king of knockback as a weapon choice. You ever do some Colombian booger sugar and it just hits you? Legally speaking, I have not, but I know it feels exactly like landing a double dunk in this game. The fact you can just send someone flying, even when they're at 0%, is just marvelous. I've seen some people try to set sticky traps up with the Ska's resistance, begging and praying to the sun god Ra that someone walks over them, instantly teleporting them to another planet. I have not seen it happen once though. It's much better to just stick with spam with stock or even the Quickie Bomb launcher, which can follow through on combos a bit more reliably at the cost of damage and combo setup itself. Don't even bother with the splendid screen in Charge and Targe, just go for the Tide Turner. You want that full control. Demo does have some melees that do impact his gameplay though. Swords universally have a longer deploy and holster time, meaning if you need them at a moment's notice to finish a chain of hits off or fighting some annoying scout, you might be screwed. Of course, swords also have extendo range, making it a lot easier to hit enemies when they're knocking you around as well. One sword in particular is a godsend in the game too, the Claymore. We aren't doing the unfunny, don't know how to pronounce this weapon joke, because this sword needs more respect. The extended charge duration is a lifesaver, allowing you to save yourself a lot easier off stage than before, or to move around the map and get closer to the enemies as well. Demo is much like a discount soldier in this game. Both have access to projectiles, decent mobility, and decent off-stage recovery. It's just that Soldier has much easier access to all those fundamental skills. You can't guarantee that the enemy will walk over your sticky bomb. They might get hit from an enemy across the map and be launched directly over them and onto you. Meanwhile, Soldier can just freely fire at his enemy, and if they happen to land right on him, he can easily rocket jump to create space, unlike Demo. I will say Demo has the highest damage potential in this game thanks to his stickies, as it is still possible, but is as improbable as winning the lottery. Twice. But even if he does manage to deal 120% in a single 8 sticky stack attack, if the enemy survives that, he can't do anything to reliably follow that up, especially since his ideal range just so happens to be shared with the most dangerous classes in the game. Thankfully, he isn't entirely at the mercy of the wind, possessing some recovery options, even if they are rather lacking. Heavy will happily heave you off the stage with a helpful handful of hard-earned bullets, his hefty size being his biggest hassle however. Heavy is really one-dimensional in this game mode. His entire gimmick and strategy revolves around carrying someone off stage with his minigun. His high clip capacity and fire rate quickly builds up percentages, allowing you to knock someone off stage with continuous fire. The hit-scan nature of the gun also allows you to snipe people from afar, guaranteeing kills from enemies you knocked away or build up chip damage. The minigun might be strong in one-on-one encounters, but with how much lead you need to let loose on a target, you'll find Heavy struggling hard against numerous enemies or in prolonged fights. Your ammo will eventually regenerate over time, but it takes a while, leaving Heavy with only a shotgun in his melee. Despite his offensive capabilities, Heavy also suffers greatly defensively. He might have an innate knockback resistance while spun up, but that means absolutely nothing when every hit you take drastically increases your knockback. Heavy is hilariously the glass cannon of Smash Fortress, extremely strong and powerful, but as fragile as the 2008 housing market. There are definitely stronger weapons in the game over the minigun, but it has a rather solid niche with its range and damage output, something most other top tier weapons in the game lack. If it weren't for the rather small ammo capacity and slow ammo regeneration times, I could see Heavy being a lot more dangerous. Being stuck with a shotgun as a secondary is better than being stuck with nothing, but you won't be knocking people around with it, making you extremely vulnerable to being rushed down by every other class, because Heavy has as much offstage recovery as Little Mac. You'll soon forget what solid ground felt like. There's only one item loadout that actually works on Heavy 2, leading him to being as diverse as a British university. Feel free to try out other miniguns like the Brass Beast, Natasha, or Stock, just keep in mind that they aren't that great, either emphasizing Heavy's weaknesses or not pushing his strengths. The Huel Babino Heater... just don't. The only minigun I can recommend is the Tomislav. Its slightly slower firing rate means absolutely nothing, but its faster spin-up time and accuracy mean everything. Heavy needs to avoid taking damage, as being knocked around the map is surely a confirmed kill against him. There's nothing he can do to prevent that. And unfortunately, his weapon makes him a lot easier to hit when using it as well. Unless you can quickly B-hop away from it. Minimizing damage and knockback won't ever be as good as flat out cancelling it or preventing it, but it's all Heavy has. The Tomislav's tighter spread also allows you to snipe people from afar a lot more consistently than the other miniguns, allowing you to secure kills against people if you've launched, or to snipe the poor Engie a mile away. As for secondaries, you only have the selection of the shotguns. Sandwiches do not do anything in this game mode, aside from heal yourself from the odd Mega Mushroom incident. Shotguns are still pretty meh. They're better than nothing, as mentioned before when talking about Engineer though. I will say that the faster firing rate of the family business with extended clip size does make it a lot easier to potentially knock people off stage by chaining more hits together than Stock or the Panic Attack, but that's really it. Melee doesn't matter all that much. The Gru makes you run slightly faster so you can get closer to enemies and dodge projectiles a bit better. I feel as if the Fist of Steel might reduce your knockback you get directly greatly, if not superficially by reducing the damage you do receive, making a decent choice to recover from combos. That being said, I can't confirm it, but every single Heavy I was airshotting just refused to move when holding the fist out. Theory crafting the eviction notice might also be rather ideal, giving you slight movement and also allowing you to chain in a multitude of melee hits as a quick Street Fighter combo. I mentioned how Heavy is just a better engineer during his segment, and that definitely is true. You're capable of freely moving around the map instead of being tied to a location, and you don't need to wait a week to actually fight someone. Similarly, the downsides that are present on Engineer are still on Heavy, but to a lesser extent. Engineer needs metal to function like how Heavy needs ammo to, and both classes are rather immobile. Sentries are obviously incapable of moving at all, and Heavy loses most of his mobility when attacking. Of course, you can still B-hop or slowly walk out of harm's way unlike a sentry, but their fast firing rate also makes both classes ideal for long-range chip damage or snipe carrying someone off stage as mentioned before. It's just that Heavy can, do it immediately. He's obviously better than Engineer, fulfills the same niche in the game, but that niche isn't all that good. You're way too reliant on too many things going right to do as well as some of the stronger classes, and the moment things don't go your way, Sniper is a really strange case in Smash, seeming to have a solution to any situation but struggling to succeed over those who specialize. He's still somewhat strong but suffers from some shortcomings. Sniper has the most amount of playstyles in the game, which is odd considering how stale and simple normal sniping in TF2 is. Having 3 distinct playstyles means that Sniper can easily adapt and overcome any obstacles his opponents throw at him, at the cost of being only good, not great, at any of them. Prioritizing damage, knockback, or both through the use of certain sniper rifles and the Huntsman. The age-old quote of "Jack of all trades, master of none, but often better than a master of one" does not apply in this game mode at all. It's a dog eat dog, cat eat cat, chimpanzee eat chimpanzee world out there. Prioritizing damage over knockback gives Sniper the ability to shoot people from several miles away in safety, freely building up high-end percentages with time. Headshots don't deal additional damage in this game, but a full charge shot will. The only issue is that you won't be able to actually snipe anyone off stage due to how pathetic the knockback is. It's sort of fitting for the support class who actually support his team rather than securing the kill, but still. This also obviously means if someone gets close to you, there's little you can do to get rid of them. Prioritizing knockback, however, puts you at a greater risk since instead of being armed with a sniper rifle, you are now armed with a rocket launcher. This oddball weapon choice affects the Hitman's Heatmaker and Bizarre Bargain. replacing the hitscan bullet with a high velocity rocket. It's like the direct hit but on steroids. The damage buildup is a lot less, but the knockback is noticeable. The only downside is that it's as janky as that AAA game on release. You know the one. Being a rocket launcher also means Sniper has access to much needed mobility and recovery across stages, even if rocket jumping as Sniper is really janky. Finally, there's the Huntsman, which dabbles in doubling. It deals decent damage and decent knockback. It's just really hard to hit people with it. If you're real Robin Hood, it's a solid option though. They all have some upsides, but pretty strong and noticeable downsides. Still, Sniper is a lot more consistent than a class like Heavy, and being able to mix and match loadouts to your enemy's strengths and weaknesses means Sniper's only real downsides come from his lacking arsenal and sparse recovery. Stock, the Machina, the Classic, and the Sydney Sleeper all prioritize high damage output over knockback. Being hit-scan rifles allows you to snipe people from afar and stop people from covering off stage. I don't recommend the Machina, as getting a collateral is nearly impossible, and the fact you can't hip fire makes it really bad for when you get launched into the air. Similarly, the Classic can't fire in the air either. As mentioned prior, the Hitman's Heatmaker and Bizarre Bargain fire rockets instead of bullets. I don't think there's a difference between the two. Both are good for knockback and finishing off enemies, but let's be a bit real here. Just play Soldier. Sniper secondaries are also really solid. I mean, backpacks aren't doing anything in this game, but the SMG and Girardi are extremely strong choices which complement Sniper's primaries. Girardi coats enemies, making them take increased knockback, offsetting the rather horrendous knockback dealt by weapons like the stock Sniper, or further boosting the knockback of something like the Bizarre Bargain. The SMG also excels in helping Sniper quickly build up damage percentage with its fast firing rate, tight spread, and high ammo capacity. Landing several shots on a high percentage enemy is a near guaranteed kill, acting as a quick combo killer. The pistol might be stronger or better at closer ranges, but the SMG's range make it a lot more ideal for securing that kill. Sniper isn't going to bring in any gold medals in for damage, knockback, or actual kills, but he is a competitor for sure. Maybe not a podium placer in any of those events, but still a competitor in them nonetheless. He works much better as a support class than as an independent unit, something rather unique to everyone else in the game. Being able to stand from afar and support teams through precision, or right beside them with rockets. His secondary is especially pushing that mindset forward by pushing enemies into a combo to get knocked off, or by increasing their knockback through Girardi. Not the worst, but certainly not the best. Simply put, Soldier is strong. How he plays and functions in Smash Fortress is the exact same as how he plays in the normal game. He hits hard, he knocks people around hard, he has movement options at the exchange of taking percent damage. Works in groups of people or against solo targets, suffering a tad bit at long ranges due to the unpredictable nature of players' movements, but that can be rectified with a shotgun slightly. He has a few diverse options that boost the overall fundamentals of the game, the base jumper for offstage recovery, the direct hit for more knockback, the works. There's not a whole lot to dive into with Soldier. He's a great class to start the game with per usual, and that's really it. The rocket launchers are all rather run and dry, stock is pretty standard, the direct hit can be ludicrously overpowered if you're a Mr. Beast airshot god. I'm not that though, so I struggle landing hits. The airstrike is a unique option, greatly buffing the slow firing rate and slow damage buildup of the rocket launchers through blast jumps. Obviously, the downside is that you make yourself as vulnerable as a teenage girl while using it. This can be negated through the gunboats, which reduce the damage you would take in. And then we have the man treads. Man, oh man. More air control means being able to survive at higher percents. It's an extremely underrated weapon to use. Similar to the base jumper, which is a lot better when you don't get rid of your primary tools of destruction for it to actually work. The bison. 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 The bison is pretty good. As for melees, the disciplinary action is the only one with added effects, being able to speed up nearby allies and having extended range. Landing a Market Garden is really cool as it does deal increased damage and knockback, but the percentage damage you take to rocket jump to pull it off isn't worth it. especially when if someone looks up and they can just send you right back from where you were. I didn't bother to write a summary for Soldier. He gets a bronze star for being a cool dude with a bad attitude. Keep it up. Scout seems to share some similarities with Heavy, struggling with knockback but having superior damage stacking and supported with stage control. Scout is a superb class with only some setbacks but several strengths. You have faster base movement speed, allowing you to avoid taking hits, a strong primary weapon that's capable of building up damage quickly, a reliable secondary useful for continuing a combo or carrying people off stage, and an incredible recovery thanks to the double jump, allowing you to further snake in and around enemies, get back on stage, or cancel out any momentum you have. Scout and Soldier are definitely the Mario and Dr. Mario of Smash Fortress, boasting above average abilities and stats with everything but damage and knockback respectively. Sadly, knockback means a lot more than damage in this game mode, which is something lacks in his primary weapon. He's also a lot stronger in smaller engagements than whole on-team fights. If you can ambush and harass someone long enough without being interrupted by another enemy, Scout doesn't have much difficulty getting someone to 200%, but does have difficulty pushing them off the stage. Scout needing to be closer to enemies is also a partial detriment to him compared to other classes. You can be a dodge deity, but that's only going to go so far. You will take hits, and even though you can change your momentum at a button press, you're still quite vulnerable to follow-up attacks from SMGs, revolvers, miniguns, or more. Scout's weapons are rather weak all things considered. Stock and the Soda Popper are offensive threats due to their damage output, but the hype function of the Soda Popper just isn't in the game. The short stop puts you less at risk while still allowing you to score up solid scattergun shots. Even the short stop shove has a use in this game mode, knocking back ubered players. Sounds stupid, but I'm serious. Its tighter spread also allows you to snipe people to secure kills on players off stage or to build up chip damage from afar. The Force of Nature is the clear-cut choice here though, boosting your bad knockback by essentially giving you a free 75% hit in every single clip, knocking people airborne, allowing for that second shot to send them even farther, and defensively, it gives you essentially another double jump to further stop your airborne momentum to allow you back on stage. For secondaries, I can only recommend using the pistols. All of them are fairly interchangeable, although stock is the best due to its higher clip size. The Winger's extra jump height probably has some niche use in this game, like Gen 1 Porygon. No one's gonna get that. I theory crafted Criticola, okay? I wrote a whole goddamn thesis about it. I ran tests, did the numbers. Doesn't work. The extra damage and knockback you could deal means nothing. The enemy is guaranteed to deal more to you. If you can somehow get behind the enemy, chug it, and then attack, assuming he's already at like 90% damage, yeah, sure, it works then. But that's it. It's way too niche to be good in this game. The Guillotine and Mad Milk do nothing. I mean, the Guillotine is a weapon, but there's no damage over time, and it's harder to hit compared to a hit scan, so what's the point? Don't use it. Scout surprisingly does have some solid melee choices though. The Rap Assassin and Sandman function as a decent mid-range weapon, even if they are rather lacking, it still does do something. The Fan of War allows you to follow through combos even more than normal melee hits due to it marking the enemy for death. Perfect against classes with good recovery like Pyro, Spy, or another Scout. But then, we have the Atomizer. It's another free jump. Need I say more? Scout is an exceptional harasser. He struggles to get the knockouts, but puts in 90% of the work. He's every single high school group project. His movement speed and high damage output means he'll be spending most of the time in the danger zone. Thankfully, his recovery can cover for any potential hits. High risk, but also high recovery. Shame there's just not a whole lot of reward. Spy isn't just for sneaking and stalking the battlefield, shockingly enough, as he has the strongest hit scan shooter to be seen. Spy also scrambles out of harmless situations by not being seen, ironically. such as being sent skyward. It's hilarious to think that the weakest, most fragile, brittle bones killed by doing a 180 Frenchman will be a top 3 class. This is Napoleonic Wars France, okay? Not World War II France. Although, we'll get to that history lesson soon enough. Spy's main tool isn't his knife, surprisingly, but his revolver. Considering how every other hit scan weapon so far has been focused on rapidly building up percent damage just to launch someone, it's nice to see one that's entirely built around having high knockback from the get-go, especially one that still has a relatively fast firing rate and solid spread. The revolver is essentially a mini sniper rifle, but still has extremely strong close to mid-range viability to it as well. You can easily shoot someone 4 times with this to send them flying, and use the other 2 shots to ensure they stay off the stage. The only real downside it has is trying to hit someone from afar with consecutive spam. Just reload and get that guaranteed straight shot. Of course, having a strong gun isn't the only thing Spy has going for him. He has the devious art of deception. The disguise kit prevents you from being sniped from across the map in combination with the invis watches, a great help when you're stuck at high percentages. People also tend to fall for disguises a lot more due to the chaotic nature of the game. They can't be bothered to see if the blue guy on the ground is still going to be blue 4 seconds later. They're busy landing a 19-hit combo on someone stuck in the stratosphere. Disguises also allow you to sneak in a backstab here or there. Keep in mind what I said about melees prior, but with the actual ability to use them, combined with an exceptionally high amount of percent damage and knockback. The only issue is actually getting a backstab. Spy's Invis Watch isn't just a tool to get close to the enemy either, but a recovery option as well. Going invisible mid-enemy combo means that they'll have a harder time landing that killing blow, allowing you to fall safely to the ground. A Pyro, Scout, or Medic about to rush you down? Go invisible. The ability to essentially say no to taking damage is an incredible tool and should be used often. Spy also has the Sapper. That's pretty cool. All of Spy's knives functionally work the same, but I still don't recommend using the kunai or big earner due to their health penalty, and as you can still take health damage from those under the effects of Mega Mushroom, it's better to just not risk it. His revolvers, however, do have some differences. The Ambassador's headshots deal even more knockback and percent damage, although I find the slower firing speed to be too much to make it good. The Diamondback marks people for death on hit, further allowing increased damage and knockback, although I feel like its firing speed has been tweaked a little bit to be a lot slower than what it normally is. The L'Étranger is my personal go-to though, having a greatly increased firing speed, easily allowing you to carry people off stage, combined with additional free bullets in clip, and you have a real big iron. Spy is a great and solid choice if you find yourself struggling against enemies. Disguises circumvent taking random chip damage and typically allow you to get the first hit in, while invisibility guarantees you'll get out of most combos, allowing you to easily get back on stage without a hassle. His hand cannons are also an extremely powerful offensive choice without any downsides. Pyro easily eviscerates everyone who encounters him, engulfing them in an inferno and allowing for a near-instant KO. Pyro is easy to play and even easier to earn kills with. Before we talk about the absurd strengths that Pyro has, let's go over the one weakness he has. Range. You can't reliably do much damage if someone sees you coming, blasting you into the sky before you can reach them. Of course, this is a pretty easy thing to overcome since Pyro has the highest movement out of every class available in the game, allowing you to get up close and personal enemies without hassle. When Pyro does get up close to an enemy, there's nothing you can do. You're fucked. The damage output of the flamethrower with his high capacity allows Pyro to walk into an enemy and easily carry them off stage. There's just nothing you can do. Your only hope is to recover from being knocked off rather than outright preventing it. Even if you manage to shoot the Pyro and knock him around a little bit, allowing you to escape that fiery grip, Pyro has the detonator which freely allows him to travel the map and even recover in the air, allowing him to close the gap between enemies or get back on stage. He also has access to the thermal thruster which fulfills a similar niche without the cost of taking percent damage. If for some reason you aren't being knocked around by the flames of the flamethrower, don't worry because Pyro still has access to Air Blast, deflecting projectiles which makes it even harder for you to shake him off, countering the homing projectiles caused by the Bullet Bill power-up, and even knocking back Ubered players. It is absurdly overpowered. Even if it costs a bit of your ammo, it regenerates a lot faster than a minigun, allowing you to lay into enemies and reflect projectiles with ease. The Greaser and Stock function more or less the same. If you prefer having more air blasts and primary firepower, go ahead and use Stock. If you like throwing in the odd flare into your combo when someone gets knocked around, pushing them back even further though, use the Greaser. Don't use the Flogger Backburner though, as their crit abilities either don't work or don't actually impact the game that much. The Dragon's Fury helps to negate Pyro's issue with the range at the steep cost of firepower. It's a much more balanced flamethrower. So why would you use it over the stupid overpowered ones? You have a sense of honor in this game mode? Flare guns are exceptional tools from sniping from afar, although it is quite challenging to do so. You can't get the damage increase from burning players since you don't actually set people aflame in this game, but still. They deal decent damage and knockback, and in the case of the Scorch Shot and Detonator, allow for a lot more utility or combo setup than one thinks. The Thermal Thruster, as mentioned prior, is another solid recovery tool ideal for getting back on stage. Just be careful of the delay period when using it, leaving you open for more knockback. With the exception of the third degree, which allows you to hit 2 enemies in one swing, all of Pyro's melees function the exact same. Good for ending a flamethrower barrage, or to start a combo if you're sent airborne with the Thermal Thruster or Detonator. Pyro is a beast on the battlefield. If you see one approaching you, your best bet is to pray and move away from the edge, as even being at 0%, the rapid knockback and damage of the flamethrower will still consistently carry you away. Having extremely solid offense and defensive choices in the Detonator or Thermal Thruster also makes him a threat even when you appear to be winning, going from one side of the map and then in your face thanks to being launched at high percentages. Fear the flame. It ain't even close. Medic is a monster. His syringe gun melts through every member of your team, and his medigun makes him immune to damage and knockback, meaning he's free to mop up the mess that your team made. I see why it took the entire world to defeat them twice. When the Discord server and I were first playing around this game mode to see what works and what doesn't, I foolishly said, who would play a support class in this game? I see the error of my ways now. Medic has outrageous offensive and defensive power, the only close contender being Pyro, who has a much more reliable primary but is offset by terrible range. The syringe gun isn't. It has a ludicrously high clip, firing rate, range, and even gives 10% Uber back on hit. You walk into someone with a handful of heroin needles and they die from an overdose. Except, you don't need to walk into them because you can snipe them with syringes from a fair far distance as well. Uber is also extremely broken in this game, negating percentage buildup and knockback completely, allowing you to say no to the enemy. Because of how quick the syringe gun fires, the moment you hit an enemy once, you'll probably have full Uber, allowing you to use it defensively, negating that damage and retreating, or offensively, allowing you to position yourself right in their face, only to unload more fentanyl and increase your Uber duration even longer. You become impossible to kill as long as there are enemies near you. And even if by some miracle you do manage to get the high percentages and comboed into the sky, nothing prevents you from popping Uber then and there and gracefully gliding down to earth with your German presence. His medigun gets even stronger when you realize that he can do it to a potential partner as well, although admittedly with how powerful it is on its own, be thankful you don't see the surgeon sharing that often. His medigun also has the added ability to reduce the percentage damage of his heal target, allowing them to stay in the fight even longer, becoming even more of a hassle. He's a threat up close and far away, hurting your team even when your team isn't even near him. Downsides? There are no downsides. Arguably, you could say the syringe gun has a bit too short of a range compared to something that's actually hit scan, but Medic's unlock sort of shut that downside down. The Crusader's crossbow, although not having the sheer smashing strength as the other syringe guns, does allow you to snipe enemies from a distance. Combined with the bullet bill power up and you can't miss, giving you free Uber yet again. It shoots 4 shots in rapid fire as well, so even though it's weaker than the syringes, it's still stronger than most other weapons in the game. We also have the overdose. Free Uber also means free movement, making Medic even harder to hit, allowing him to hit you faster and giving him even more recovery in the air. Only the stock Medigun seems to function properly in this game, although thinking about how stupidly strong the quick fixes Uber would be is funny, and I'm thankful it doesn't work. As for melees, the Uber Saw still does the same thing, although its utility is greatly undermined when you recall that shooting someone once gives you full Uber. Technically, you should use it even if it won't come up, or be directly useful 98% of the time. Still, some utility is better than no utility. This is the part where I do a summary of the class, wrapping the strengths and weaknesses up and tying a nice little bow on it. Medic doesn't need that. Medic is just too strong for a short summary. Praise be Oktoberfest and Auf Wiedersehen. And that's the score for Smash Fortress summarized. Every class's strengths and weaknesses summarized in a startling amount of time. Assuming they had any weaknesses. I'm gonna go lie down now. I've had enough of smashing and getting one-shot by a medic. If you wish to try out and play this game with the techs and tricks taught today, there'll be an IP for a couple servers that run the game mode down below. The more people to play, the more the chaotic the carnage will be, and the more fun. This was made using BlackWonder's server. I'm not sure if there's any difference or crossover between other servers, but please keep that in mind if there is any differences before commenting. The thoughts detailing the tier list are partially responsible for those in my Discord server as well as I. There will be plenty more videos like this to come, so if you want to be in a video, your best bet is to either support me on Patreon or join the Discord server and wait for the next announcement down below. Wouldn't mind you subscribing for making it all the way to the ends of this Smash success either, you know? Okay, the thing about dipping dots is, right, they were made in what, they're 35 years old. You can't call them the fucking ice cream of the future where we're in the future now. You can't do that. That's just false advertisement at this point. I would sue. I'm not going to. I have no money and I'd lose the lease, okay? But I would sue, okay? Second off, it's terrible. You can have dipping dots once, just like out of the taste of the gimmick, and that's it. You can't have it anymore. It's stupid, it's terrible. It's expensive as hell too. It probably costs around $8 like a bowl when you can just get a normal ice cream, which you get more of, by the way. You get more just normal ice cream than have a dipping dots bowl for like $4, $5. It's crazy. And a waffle cone. You can have sprinkles. You can't do sprinkles. Can't do a waffle cone. Can't do sprinkles of dipping dots. Dipping dots suck. I'm glad they went bankrupt in 2011. They fucking deserve it. Cryogenically frozen ice cream. All ice cream should be frozen. That's not a selling point, okay? That's not you. The top review for dipping dots says good place to buy ice cream to quench your. You don't drink ice cream. Why? This doesn't even melt. You can't even drink normal ice cream. Yeah, I guess you can drink if it melts a little, but this is fucking beads. You can't drink beads. There's like Orbeez. Orbeez if they were food. Who left this review? Who left this review? I will find you.